bring in now Republican Representative Paulina Luna of the great state of Florida. She says she was the subject of a very serious shooting threat. She also blames rhetoric coming from the left. The Congresswoman posting this on X: "My office has received a very serious shooting threat. This division and hate campaign against Republicans is going to get someone killed. I will not be threatened, intimidated, or bow down to those using violence as a means to push their agenda. We will win." Joining me now, Florida Congresswoman Paulina Luna. Congresswoman, thank you for joining us today. Sorry to hear what your office is dealing with and you're personally dealing with. It's unbelievable what's happening in this country right now. I think about all the people who live in blue cities and blue states that maybe hesitate to put a Trump bumper sticker on their vehicle, to put a flag out in their yard, to have any kind of show of support because of how the left has reacted in the past. And now the violence just seems to be ratcheting up more and more. What's going on?
You know, I would largely say that this is due, like you said, to the political rhetoric of the left, but also I hold journalists responsible. You know, it seems to be that now in politics there's no longer the pure form of journalism where they want to report the facts. People are using their positions to try to elevate themselves as writers, sometimes not even printing the facts. We saw that was very evident with President Trump. But I'd like to speak to what happened to our office recently. Obviously, you know that there is an open investigation, but that's not the only threat that we've received, and it has increased because of what happened with President Trump and over the weekend. And so what I can tell you is, you know, for me specifically, I have a 1-year-old at home, and to receive messages like that, to have the Sheriff's Department, law enforcement, the FBI, the Attorney General's office now working in conjunction with one another simply to try to keep me safe because people are trying to intimidate the American people into not being Republican, not being conservative, not supporting President Trump, that doesn't operate or do bode well in a free and fair society. And so I'm not going to back down. I'm not going to continue to try to be scared because of what they're doing. I think that right now we need to just stay focused, push forward, but I am taking my safety securely, and I think anyone that fails to condemn this type of rhetoric doesn't belong in office.
I completely agree, and I love that you use the term journalist for some of these people. That's very generous for those out there that refuse to call out what's going on. Let me ask you, what's the conversation been like on the Hill among your colleagues, especially those on the left? Have you seen any shows of support, or do they continue to dismiss what's been going on?
I had one member that was a Democrat that reached out, but for the most part, everyone else has been silent. I actually told Speaker Johnson that I wanted to speak to Hakeem Jeffries, and I saw Hakeem Jeffries was appearing to be voting on the floor, but he wasn't on the actual floor. The reason why I wanted to talk to him directly is because we got a quote and a death threat that was actually quoting something that he had posted online the day that President Trump was assassinated. So when I say that people need to be careful about what they're saying, when you talk and use that rhetoric, you are basically stoking violence. You know, it's interesting that they try to say that President Trump incited an insurrection when he asked people to peacefully protest, and yet when you actually call people threats to democracy and use terms like putting them, you know, in the eyesight or whatever the terms that they're using, they're not to be held to the same, I think, standard, and I think that that's problematic. And so, you know, again, I tried to talk with Hakeem directly, but he was nowhere to be found.
Well, Congressman, before we let you go, I'm just curious, as we look to these investigations, obviously, as you mentioned, the bipartisan task force looking into what happened in Butler. Obviously, there's your governor investigating the charges down in Florida. What's your level of confidence that we will get some answers, that we'll see more transparency, and ultimately some meaningful change as it relates to protecting our former and perhaps future president?
Federally speaking, these alphabet soup organizations don't respect Congress's authority. So don't think until President Trump gets back into office and we can have a standalone committee with full subpoena power that actually has teeth in it that they'll be able to investigate. But I do have confidence in what the state of Florida is doing in opening up a parallel investigation into what happened with the second attempt on President Trump over the weekend. And again, I will say to any journalist that's been reporting false information and using their platform as an activist, shame on you. You should be held accountable and responsible for any harm that comes onto any elected official because of what you've been posting. It's shameful.
Yeah, they ought to be out of a job if some of these organizations had any credibility. Congresswoman Paulina Luna, always a pleasure to see you. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, we're not talking to any more of those people. We're cutting them off. As far as I'm concerned, if you're not a legitimate reporter, we're not talking to you anymore. No more.
I respect that. Congresswoman, thank you for your time today. Great to see you.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, don't go anywhere. Still much more ahead on National Desk. We'll be right back.